Welcome to part 1 of a full playthrough of SuperDanny 2. This is Blika, the game's creator.
And this is Fab. I helped out in various departments, mostly custom graphics. And we're going to attempt to provide unscripted developers commentary on the game.
This is a casual playthrough I did prior to this commentary, so in addition to showing you how to skillfully conquer the game, you'll also see me falling into holes like an idiot on several occasions. So, here we are in the opening.
Wily's taking everybody captive. That's Deacon.
Ruby Spears' Mega Man cartoons reference, the first of many in this game. And there's the awesome sprite work done by Fab.
And if you notice, that says 2006 to 2010. This was a major project.
Very, very long. Here we are in the opening level, where you're playing as Mega Man instead of SuperDanny, so it's like Mega Man 3, you don't have the charge shot, the lives look different, the pause screen is like from Mega Man 3, and so on. And you may notice that the background graphics are not the usual lights flashing, they are the beta graphics as seen on a screenshot at the Mechanical Maniacs website. And I thought those were a lot more exciting myself than the lights, so that was all you're doing, right, Paul?
Yeah, I took the crappy screenshot and did my best to turn them into useful sprites.
Very awesome. And this water was justifiably used since they did it in Mega Man 2. That game's not exactly the best out there, of course, but it was a way to make the level more interesting. And the reason I wanted to make this level more interesting was because originally Top Man was not an opening level, he was one of the main 8 robot masters that you fight. And he was like that for many years of the game's development, and probably within the last year of its development, I finally decided that why did I ever go with Top Man? Snake Man is way cooler, so Top Man got kicked out to be used for the opening stage instead, and Snake Man became one of the main 8.
And you released a couple of demos for this game, and one of them even had included Top Man as a defeatable boss.
Yeah, most of them, I think most of the demos I did make were Top Man, and that was, you know, with SuperDanny fighting him, which you can't do in this game now. And yeah, all the work had been done for Top Man by the time I finally made that decision. Tiles ripped, his AI was programmed, the cat enemy, all of his specific enemies, so I couldn't not use him. So he had to go somewhere, and I think it was your idea that it be an opening level. I was opposed to that at first, because most classic NES games, or all of them, don't have opening levels, but I think it worked really well in terms of the story.
It definitely did.
So yeah. And as you notice, that level, or this boss, I mean, a lot of people think he's way too hard for an opening boss, but he's just like he is in Mega Man 3, except he might bounce back and hit you again. So if you just jump twice every time, there was a flawless victory against him.
What the
And
hell?
as you saw in the opening, Mega Man was just taken by Wily and Dark Man. Now you're seeing it from SuperDanny's perspective as he's playing the game.
And this, of course, makes him ecstatic. And as you notice in the save load screen here, it's Mega Man 5 style, and the stage select is Mega Man 5 style. There's a lot of 5 influence in this game because 5 is my favorite classic Mega Man game, so naturally I was partial to it. And we're starting with Gyro Man because I'm doing the game in an order that I can collect all of the letter items without having to return to any levels, and since you can get the letter here without requiring any other weapons or cross-fusions, and Gyro, of course, is a great one to get to the letters, this is a good place to start. As you've noticed by now, the Charge Buster is here. Same graphic as in Mega Man 5, and it eliminates the enemies with the same proficiency. There's an area ripped off the original level. I do that a lot in my levels, make a point of it to remix the old levels and keep some of the old elements intact. And some people complain about that. I don't know why, really. I think it's pretty cool myself. It originated with the first SuperDanny game. When I was making those levels, it was an idea of, the SuperDanny himself, as a Mega Man fan, would think it's awesome to be playing through those parts as they were in the original level, and it just sort of stuck and became my level making style, and I always like how it turns out, really.
And really, it's just bits and pieces here and there, so nobody should complain about it. I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah. Another note, this was the first game to feature SuperDanny in his new green shirt with a D on it. If you've seen him in older games of mine, he was in a yellow shirt with a peace icon on it. And that was originally used from a very crappy sketch of SuperDanny drawn by SuperDanny himself. And he just gave him a yellow shirt for no reason in particular. And when I was making this game, I don't like the color yellow myself, so I asked him about doing some character upgrades, and he was more than happy to see the green shirt with a D on it instead. And yeah, the sprites are a lot more improved on him than in the first SuperDanny. There's the Mega Man costume that was called Brilliant by the real SuperDanny. In case you don't feel like playing as a fan character, it allows anyone to play as Mega Man, but doesn't change the gameplay at all. He's exactly the same as SuperDanny. Just looks different.
Except for Tar, which you'll see later in this playthrough.
Ah, yes. And this fight has also been called too difficult before, but as you can see, it's really just his Mega Man 5 pattern. Like all the bosses in this game, I tried to follow their exact original pattern and then throw in one extra attack. In Gyro's case, it's that he swoops down at you, but that's usually pretty easy to jump over because there's a slight delay before he comes at you and you know when he's going to do it. So really, it's not that difficult of a battle. There's some awesome sprite work done by Fab.
Thank you.
I couldn't do those feet in a million years. And next we'll go to Pharaoh, who also gives a very useful cross-fusion for obtaining letters.
The frustrations of the quicksand program.
Yes, indeed. It's not a fun obstacle to make. Originally in Mega Man 4 they had those ladybug enemies, which I always hated as I played that game, so I did not make them and instead just colored these guys red and put them in. I think they made a good substitute for them. Yeah, they were always obnoxious as can be.
Yeah, I doubt anybody liked this.
Right here is a secret room, which anyone who's found that without the use of this video has major congrats from me. Very well hidden, if I do say so myself. Notice the quicksand is inside the pyramid here, which I took from the Game Boy game. They didn't do that in the NES. I always thought that was really cool in the Game Boy, so I borrowed that here. And you'll also see later in the level I use those falling rock-looking platforms over holes instead of those hover raft-looking things over spikes, because I always hated those things as well. So I mixed the NES look of the level with the Game Boy structure of it, pretty much, which I think turned out pretty good myself.
And watching this in action is really amazing, thinking back. The 4 years of development, all we put into it, Leica obviously way more than me, but even still, and the project really evolved a lot in that time.
Yeah, in those first few months, especially even in the first week, it was just tons and tons of planning and then replanning and, oh, wouldn't this be cool, wouldn't this be cool, and before you know it, there's 30 bosses, 85 enemies, tons of levels. It's a whole epic package of Mega Man game, which really it turned out to be the one that I wanted to make when I first downloaded Game Maker, so...
In essence.
Yeah. The one I wanted to make when I first downloaded Game Maker was starring Mega Man, of course, but yeah, the overall effect of the game is the same.
Dream come true.
Yeah. And in those 4 years, one of Fab's primary jobs was listening to me rant my frustrations about the game, because that's a lot of very frustrating work over the course of 4 years.
I can vouch for that.
Especially when I have other things that I would rather be doing and I'm forced to work on this because it needs to get done. That was never fun. And ouch. As you can see, Pharaoh Man's probably one of the harder bosses in this game with his wild, unpredictable jumping.
He's quite the jerk.
Yeah.
I seem to recall when you had me test play him for the first time. It took me a million tries to finally beat him.
Yeah, it's not too easy. And on the note of how long this game took, another step was I originally started with basing it off the first SuperDanny's engine, which if you've played the first SuperDanny you'll know is incredibly inaccurate and pretty crappy, and I was years in that engine.
Awesome.
And it sucked and it was hopeless, and late 2009 I just started from scratch again with an entire new engine and finished it from 2009 to late 2010. So yeah, that whole engine there was only used for my Starman games. And, I guess that wraps up part 1, so till next time.